Our next speaker is Alfie, who is active with the Hunt Saboteurs Association in the UK. He has been an activist since he was 16 years old and has been campaigning against apartheid, nuclear weapons and nuclear power, and since 2000 focusing on the issue of hunting. Now Alfie will show how the Hunt Saboteurs global network has developed since the last International Animal Rights Conference, and he will also talk about European Citizens Initiate. Please welcome Alfie.
Thank you very much for the introduction there. As you just heard, my name's Alfie. I've been a Hunt Sab for 33 years. I'm a group contact for a group of Hunt Saboteurs based in South London. I'm also on the committee of the Hunt Saboteurs Association, where I'm the information officer. And 2 years ago, I was one of the founder members of the Hunt Saboteurs Global Network. That actually started here 2 years ago when I bumped into a couple of American Hunt Saboteurs. And soon afterwards, they actually came over to England and stayed with us in London. They came out and sabotaged a couple of hunts with us. I think they were rather surprised by the level of violence they met from the hunters in England. Their first outing, one of the hunters tried to run them over with a big four-wheel drive vehicle, which they weren't quite prepared for. Soon after that, following year, I went out to the United States and helped the American Hunt Saboteurs sabotaging the sea lion cull at the Bonneville Dam near Portland in Oregon. And then we came back here this time last year and we did a joint presentation where we talked to activists in this room, funnily enough, about our experiences of sabotaging in each other's countries. After that, we went back down to the stall, the merchandise stall we've got in the room downstairs, and all day long people were coming up to speak to us, asking us about how to set up Hunt Sab groups in their own countries. As a result of that, we set up something called the Hunt Saboteurs Global Network. And the point of the Hunt Saboteurs Global Network is to try to locate existing Hunt Saboteur groups around the world, put them in contact with each other, see what we can learn from each other's experiences. And anywhere where there aren't any Hunt Sab groups already in existence, the whole idea is that we will use our experience to try to help other people set up groups of Hunt Saboteurs. What we've actually done in order to promote that, we've actually got a range of merchandise, Hunt Saboteur Global Network merchandise. We have a website set up, we've got a Facebook page. Obviously, Hunt Saboteurs in England have been sabotaging hunts for a very long time. The Hunt Saboteurs Association, strangely like me, is 50 years old. So we've got 50 years of experience behind it. I haven't actually been a Sab since the day I was born. I started when I was 17, by the way. So we've got 50 years of experience as an organisation of sabotaging hunts. And we want to help get that information, that experience out to activists in other parts of the world. We'll go out and train groups of people as Hunt Saboteurs. In fact, in February this year, 2 of us travelled to Paris. There was an existing group of about 50 environmental activists who wanted to get involved in Hunt Sabotage. We ran 2 3-hour training sessions, in French, I have to say, to try to get those people trained up in how to actually how to sabotage hunts near Paris. 2 of their activists who are actually here today, actually, because I've seen them, actually came over and stayed with us in London and came out and sabotaged a hunt with us to gain experience. And we're hoping, we're trying to get some information on a hunt near Paris. And when we've got the good information about that hunt, we'll try to bring a larger group of English Hunt Saboteurs over to join the French Hunt Sabs and try to make a bit of a splash in the media about sabotaging a hunt, because it doesn't happen very often in France at the moment. There was a huge cull of foxes in the Lille region of France, and I was in email contact with the people that were trying to disrupt that, providing information and support. And there's a group of saboteurs near Bordeaux who are trying to stop the hunt of the ortolan, which is a little bird which is hunted illegally. And again, I've been staying in contact with them by email with advice. There's lots of things you can do if there are no existing Hunt Sabs in your country. Most people live in urban areas. Most people in urban areas are completely unaware of hunting. Most people, it's a hidden thing that goes on deep out in the countryside, and most people don't see it. But most people, when presented with information about hunting, think that it's appalling, and a lot of them will want to stop it in some way, shape or form. There are going to be people like me who go out week in, week out into the countryside area, actively get in the way of the hunters, actually physically stop them. And in your countries, there are going to be some people that will want to take on that role. There'll be other people who might not be prepared to actually go out and sabotage hunts, but they'll want to support the people that are. The Hunt Saboteurs in England couldn't actually go out in the field and destroy hunts, disrupt hunts week in, week out without the tens of thousands of people that give us financial support. Across the country, as it happens, my role as information officer, every time somebody makes a PayPal donation to the Hunt Saboteurs Association, I get an email telling me that donation has been made. And some days I'm just sitting there answering those, thanking people for sending us donations. On the busy days, there'd be literally one block of money after another coming in. So those thousands and thousands of people around the country keep Hunt Saboteur vehicles on the road, all the other equipment that we need. Most of what we use is fairly inexpensive and simple, but there are some expensive bits of kit. For example, somewhere in the pictures here, there's a picture of a badger. Unfortunately, the British government has again this year decided to try to kill all the badgers in two parts of England. Some of the equipment that we need to stop that, the night vision equipment, that is incredibly expensive. All the money for that night vision equipment is being raised through public donations. People are sending in the money to help us stop that badger cull. Right, so it's a really important thing. If you're setting up a Hunt Sab group, wherever you come from, you've got to get that public support. Social media is incredibly powerful. Facebook is a wonderful way of contacting people, building that support base. Having a website, the Hunt Saboteur Global Network has got a website. Anybody around the world that is setting up a SAB group, if you send information into me about what you're doing in your country, I can post it on the Hunt Saboteur Global Network website, and then everybody around the world's got access to that information. Also, if you do have any trouble with your police opposing your anti-hunt activities, that website's based in the UK. So the authorities would have a great deal of difficulty closing that down. Whereas if you're actually doing it in your own country, they might say, oh, you're promoting an illegal activity in your country, but they can't really do that to us. So there's lots and lots of support. Some of the stuff is really simple. If you just get stickers and posters, whatever the laws on fly posting are in your country, the penalties for putting up a poster illegally are probably not that harsh. Put up posters, say, hunting's cruel, it's time to stop. That's the slogan on the back of the Hunt Sab Global Network t-shirts and sweatshirts in, I think, 8 different languages. Yeah? Make up a poster. If you can't make up one yourself, ask us. We'll email you a PDF, print it off. Put it around everywhere. It's got the website address on it. I've got hundreds of spare email addresses for countries around the world. If you want to be the contact for your country as a Hunt Saboteur, you let me know. I'll give you an email address. Right? And then people can get on the Hunt Sab Global Network website. They can see that there's an email address in their country. They can contact you. We started down a route of trying to use the European Citizens Initiative. This is a thing where if you can collect enough signatures on a petition around Europe, the European Parliament has got to debate the proposed change in legislation. It's already been used to get some debate on the subject of vivisection through the European Parliament. Unfortunately, we found out that it doesn't have any teeth. They might be able to vote on it, but it's not binding. They don't actually have to create a law that is then enforced. So we thought that was probably not the right way to go. And I'm currently actually working very closely with members of the Green Party in the European Parliament, trying to get a ban on hunting with hounds across Europe based on the current legislation in England. For those of you who don't know, in 2005, a law was passed in England that made it illegal for the traditional type of fox hunting that we have in the UK, which is where they use a pack of about 50 dogs to chase one small fox, whilst about 100 people on horseback gallop along afterwards to try to watch the fox getting killed. And that actually became illegal in 2005. Unfortunately, there were so many loopholes in the law, it's allowed the hunts to just carry on hunting without any penalty, and the police don't really enforce the law, which is why Hunt Saboteurs week on week throughout the hunting season are still in the field and actively disrupting those hunts, because they're still hunting, we're still sabbing. So we're trying to get that legislative change across Europe. As far as I know, only France, United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland actually have hunting with hounds. So I'm quite hopeful that with all the members of the European Parliament from other countries, when they see that hunting with hounds is still going on, will be quite willing to help us ban that across Europe. Then again, of course, we have the problems with enforcement after that. Okay, so a question that I get asked quite a lot is, how do you actually go about sabotaging a hunt? Now, this is going to depend very much on what type of hunt we're talking about. There's lots of different types of hunting. What is common to stopping all types of hunting is your research. You have to find out everything you can find out about that hunt, how it operates. You need to know all of the laws in your own countries, which is going to vary quite considerably between different places. Are there any laws that are actually going to help you? So for an example, in the United Kingdom, we do have the Hunting Act. Hunting with hounds is illegal. But the level of proof required to show they were hunting illegally is really difficult. But we have at least got the law on our side in that respect. If, on the other hand, we're sabotaging shoots, now it's perfectly legal to shoot pheasants, deer, rabbits in the United Kingdom. Invariably, if we're stopping that kind of hunting, we are breaking the law. So knowing what the legal framework is, knowing just how far you can push things without actually getting yourself arrested, perhaps even deciding that you're actually going to take the risk of getting yourself arrested because you believe so passionately that what you're doing is right. I'm trying to remember how many times I've been nicked. It's quite a few over the years. But in that respect, it doesn't matter. With the sort of things I'm likely to get arrested for now, I know the worst I'm likely to get is 6 or 7 hours sitting in a police station. And there's probably not going to be any consequence beyond that. And it is a gamble that I'm prepared to take because I know I'm saving lives and it's worth it to me. But knowing the legal framework is really, really, really important. There are laws in some countries that actually make it an illegal act to disrupt a hunt. Now, you need to be aware, if that's the law where you come from, be aware of it. But also think, how likely are the police to actually enforce it? How likely are the police to actually show up? Most hunting is deep out into rural areas. If you've got a decent-sized group of hunt sabs, if you've got 12 or 20 of you, how many policemen are they actually going to be able to get there in a reasonable timescale if you're 20, 30 miles from the nearest town? It's probably going to take them an hour to get enough police to deal with you, and in that hour, you're saving lives the whole of that time. If enough police do show up, well, run away. They'll get bored after a little while, they'll go away, then you come back again. There's an awful lot of illegal hunting goes on around Europe. I mentioned earlier the ortolan. This is one that really deeply upsets me. An ortolan, for those of you that don't know, is a little tiny bird. It's protected by law. Right? They must not hunt it. It's critically endangered. And yet they just ignore the law and they go out and they carry on catching the ortolan. What happens once they've caught it is even more horrific because they blind them. They poke their eyes out. They keep them alive. They blind them. They fatten them up, feed them up, get them fatter, and then they drown them in brandy. Oh yeah, this is for real. This is how ortolan are prepared. And this is a delicacy. And it used to be very widespread right across Europe. The ortolan is so endangered, there are very few places they're still found. The hunt saboteurs I'm working with in Bordeaux, this is happening on their doorstep. Right? Now, that is blatantly illegal hunting. Although there are laws that say you must not disrupt a hunt in France, if you're disrupting that hunt because the hunt in itself is illegal, you can't be breaking the law. And I'll stand there and argue that with a police officer at court all day long. So again, that's one that we're working. I'd love to actually take a team of experienced SABs from the UK and get down there and help out those French activists. All across southern Europe, Italy, Malta, the slaughter of birds during the spring and autumn migrations. Again, this is totally illegal. You've got something called the EU Birds Directive that prevents the shooting of songbirds during the spring and autumn migrations. And yet the Italian and Maltese hunters just do it anyway. Now in Malta, you've got a group called the Committee Against Bird Slaughter that are working very closely with the authorities there. It is a kind of hunt sabotage, but they're actually using the cooperation of the police to try to stop some of the shooting out there. In Italy, by contrast, the government simply refused to bring in the EU law. So there's European law that says that slaughter during the migrating period is illegal, and yet the Italian government wouldn't enforce that in Italian law. Now, again, I'll cheerfully stand there and argue with an Italian policeman or an Italian court that if I'm out there sabotaging that hunt, I'm not breaking the law because the hunt in itself was illegal under EU law, which overrides Italian law. So knowing your legal framework and knowing, sometimes taking some risks in terms of pushing the boundaries on it is definitely going to be a part of hunt sabotage. Now, somewhere I'm just going to leave the presentation rolling behind me. I'll go through some sort of typical hunting scenarios in the United Kingdom, just to give you an idea of how hunt sabotage actually works. So the one that we most often do, what I'd call a typical Saturday in South East England in the winter time, is the foxhounds. As I said earlier, this type of hunting has been illegal since 2005. But it has barely made any difference to the hunts. If hunt saboteurs are not present, they will just openly hunt. Right? Some of them are even stupid enough to brag about the fact they're still doing it. The idea of hunting with hounds, again, for those of you who come from places where they don't do hunting with hounds, this will shock you. The idea is to get the fox running for its life. Right? The foxes typically in the daytime will be in small bits of woodland. The hunters will tell you that the fox is a vile pest. It has to be eradicated because it harms livestock, it kills chickens, it eats lambs. Yeah? In the next breath, they'll tell you that the English countryside looks as it does because they preserve those covers, those little areas of woodland, to give the foxes somewhere to breed. Wait a minute, you're breeding the pest that you've got to eradicate. Doesn't make much sense. Of course, hunting's nothing about pest control. Hunting has got nothing to do with ensuring the healthiness of the fox population by killing off the old and the weak. Hunting's about people enjoying watching an animal suffer and die. Be under no illusions about it. That's what they do it for. So what they want is the thrill of the chase. They want to see that fox running for its life. 50 hounds, 50 great big foxhounds chasing one little fox, and they want to see that fox being ripped to pieces. That's their idea of fun. There is something very seriously wrong with these people. To this end, they will put the hounds into the woods with the wind behind them, so the smell of the hounds is carried towards the foxes. The foxes know that death is coming, and they run for their lives. What the hunt really wants, they want that fox out of the woods. They want it in the open fields. They want it to be running, and they want to be galloping on their horses, 50, 100 of them. All their supporters lined up along the roadsides watching the spectacle, because they want to actually be galloping right up on that and close in when that fox dies. This, in a way, makes life quite easy for the hunt saboteur. That fox is going to come out of the woods with the wind behind it. The job of the hunt saboteur is to get to the end of the woods where the fox is most likely to emerge. Make yourself very small, very quiet, and wait for the fox to go past you. Then all hell breaks loose. The stuff in my pocket here is called citronella. It's a smelly essential oil. It stinks of lemon. You can always tell a hunt saboteur, they always smell slightly of lemon. Their cars smell of lemon, their houses smell of lemon, their clothing smells of lemon. You can't get away from it. Invades your life. Okay. Don't get any insects in the place, however. All right, so once the fox has gone by, this stuff is sprayed all over the ground. Hunting hounds are virtually blind. They hunt by scent. So they're trying to follow the smell that the fox has left as it's running. If you pour this all over the ground, spray this all over the ground where the fox has run, you're masking that scent. All being well, the hounds won't then be able to follow. Another common trick used by hunt saboteurs. I probably won't be playing with that because I'm not very good with it, honest. Right. So another very common trick with the hunt saboteurs, the huntsman, from when the hounds are tiny, uses a whip. The huntsman will beat the whip, but he also uses the noise of the whip to tell the hounds they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. This is a homemade whip made out of a bit of broom handle, a bit of climbing rope and a bootlace. And that noise to a hunting hound means stop, you're doing something naughty. Well, of course, hunt saboteurs can use this if the hounds are chasing after a fox, cracking the whip. Soon their heads will come up because they think they're doing something they're not allowed to do. It gives that few moments where the hounds are distracted. It's a few seconds more for that fox to make its escape. This thing's a hunting horn. It's a strange instrument. It's a reedless instrument. It's just a hollow tube. And the huntsman has a variety of different tunes he can play on the hunting horn that tell the hounds different things to do. The two that hunt saboteurs most often use are the on, which is a very exciting, fast series of notes that tell the hounds to run faster because they're onto the right line, they're chasing something. And the other one is a series of shorter notes that tells the hounds to come back to the huntsman. I'll try, but do so. I'm not really good with this thing. And that to the hunting hounds means come back. So if you can get them disrupted once they're chasing the fox, if you can distract them with the citronella and the whip and they're slowed down, they're looking around thinking, oh, what's going on now? And then you can call them back over to you. You get one of the greatest moments you'll ever experience in your life, because if you're seeing that fox running up over the hillside over there and you're kneeling down on the ground with a pack of foxhounds that you've just called over, giving them a nice cuddle, you'll be walking on air for weeks afterwards because you know you just saved a life and it's great. The other typical type of hunting in the southeast of England in the winter is shooting. This is mostly for us, it's pheasants that they shoot mainly. And pheasants are, they're factory farmed. The conditions are quite horrific. Where we've been out, particularly where the government's been trying to kill the badgers in Somerset and Gloucestershire, these areas are major areas for pheasant rearing. So we've seen some of the battery units are really close quarters. We even found the breeding pens recently, the place where the male pheasants impregnate the females and the eggs are laid. The eggs are then taken and put into incubators. Thousands and thousands of chicks are then kept in incredibly cramped conditions and then gradually moved up to larger and larger and larger pens until they're adult enough to be released into the countryside. Once they're released, well, obviously the shooters would claim that this is a kind of hunting for food. One of the things hunt sabs do, if they're being clever, is not actually reveal themselves as hunt sabs and actually go and try to talk to people in the countryside, because you'd be amazed what some of them will actually tell you. One of the pheasant farmers we were being very friendly to on our last trip down to Somerset told us that only 40% of the pheasants that are hatched are actually shot. The other 6, nearly all of them get killed on the roads. Now, if you're breeding an animal for food, you don't put up with a 60% loss rate. So it makes a nonsense of their claim that this pheasant farming and this pheasant shooting is a means of getting pheasants for the food market. It just wouldn't make sense to have a 60% drop rate. They're doing it because they enjoy killing things. It's the fun of shooting something. Very strange people. So you've got this horrific factory farming. The poor little pheasant, somewhere in this series of photos, you'll see a photo of a pheasant with a ring through its nose. This is because the conditions that they're kept in so cramped that if they didn't put the ring through their nose, they just peck each other to pieces. They'd all kill each other in the pens because it's such intensive farming. Once they are released into the countryside, people pay huge amounts of money for the pleasure of going and blasting them to death. Hunt sabs don't put up with that. If we find a shoot, we will stop it. We know we're breaking the law when we're doing it, but that's a price you pay. Luckily for us, again, talking of doing your research and finding out what the laws are, in England, if you have a human being in your line of shooting, you must open the gun and remove the bullets. You're breaking the law if you don't take the bullets out of the gun. How do you sabotage your shoot? You stand in the way. The hunters know that they've got to get the bullets out of the gun. Sometimes they'll threaten you. I've actually had a 12-bore shotgun literally pointed into my face before one of the other hunters came along and told him to move it. But you take that dare, yeah? You know, I've been doing it 33 years. No one shot me yet, touch wood. Another thing you do, obviously they have beaters, men who are driving the pheasants towards the guns. If you've got one group of saboteurs stopping the people from actually shooting, you get another group who drive the pheasants away from the guns. All right, so you're just pushing them away from the shooters. They will call the police. You know the police are coming. Yeah? But this is way out in the countryside. You'll get 1-2 police officers will show up. They'll see 50 men with guns, 20 masked up, blacked up hunt saboteurs, and they'll panic because they know they can't deal with it. Quite often, this is really surprising, quite often they actually tell the hunters to go home. Because the last thing they want is a violent clash involving anything up to 100 people, 50 of whom are carrying shotguns. It's going to get messy. And they know that the hunters, if they tell the hunters to go away, the hunters don't want to argue with the police because they can lose their license to own a gun. So if the police say to the hunters, go home, they go, all right then, and off they go. Whereas if they say to the hunt saboteurs, go home, we go, we're not going anywhere. If that plan doesn't work and enough police show up, well, if 20, 30, 40 coppers and lots of riot vans arrive, you run off into the woods. Scarpo, just go. Yeah? The police don't want to get their boots muddy, they won't chase you. So you wait, and after about half an hour, the police go, OK, we've got a riot in the town centre because there's no police left in the town, everybody's stealing things from the shops, and all the police go away again, you just come back and carry on sabotaging the sheep. Now, we thought we'd diversify a bit. Last year we found out that the Scottish Government licenses the killing of about 1,000 seals around the coast of Scotland. This had been sabotaged, I found out much later, way back in the 1970s, but not since. Right? So this insane slaughter of the Scottish seals had been going on unchecked for 40-odd years. And last year we came across this information, we thought we'd do something about this. So 3 of us came up with a little plan to actually go and sabotage the seal cull. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties and we never got there. But earlier this year, I got a very surprise phone call from Sea Shepherd UK, who said they wanted to do a joint mission with the Hunt Saboteurs Association. So we set up a meeting, and when I walked in and the guy from Sea Shepherd said it was the seal cull that they were after, I was ecstatic because I was so unhappy that we'd missed it last year. So we came up with this provisional plan to actually go up to Scotland and do something about the seal cull. Now, for the information from last year was that the people shooting the seals were simply standing on the harbour wall of this particular village and shooting seals right in open view. So our cunning plan, even though this was April and northern Scotland, was to simply put on wetsuits and snorkel and mask and go and jump in the water and use our usual hunt sab technique of just being between the shooters and the thing they were trying to kill. When we got up there, we found that they'd moved their operations well away from the villages so that you couldn't just, where they were like, trying to think of this in metric, 200 metre high sea cliffs. You couldn't get anywhere near the point where they were shooting from the land. They were shooting from a boat, which in itself was illegal. So what we actually did, we changed our tactics. We went out and we just spent 4 days just researching. That slide that just clipped past you there was the two guys actually shooting the seals. Let's see if I can clip back to that. No, I won't. I'll just mess it up. It'll come around again. That's one of the salmon nets, by the way. These nets are about 100 metres long, and they put them out from the sea cliffs out into the sea, and the salmon, as they come into their rivers to spawn, are caught in those huge nets. This is, of course, devastating the wild salmon population because they're catching them just at the point where they're about to breed. So they're just wiping out the whole population. Those two guys in the boat you saw slightly earlier were very stupid indeed. So we just bowled up to them, and the girl I was working with just said, "Hi boys, wow, what are you doing?" And within about 10 minutes, they had told us everything about their operation. They had told us all the best location to look for their nets. We knew exactly where they were going to be shooting the seals. We spent the next 2 days just verifying the information by physically visiting all the locations they told us about. By the time the Sea Shepherd Rib showed up, that's the little orange boat that will come up in a picture in a minute, we knew everything about these guys. Yeah? If they'd given us another 10 minutes, we'd have known their shoe size and their mother's maiden name, because they just told us everything. Absolutely wonderful. We just pretended I was a wildlife photographer and the girl with me was my sister, and she just flattered her eyelashes and they just melted. Perfect. Ha! We pulled the same stunt again a bit later, actually. It worked perfectly well the next time as well. So we got all this information. Sea Shepherd showed up. We actually withdrew with our cover intact. They didn't even know when we left that they'd been talking to hunt sabs for 4 days. And then everywhere they went, the Sea Shepherd Rib was just waiting for them. They got very angry indeed. There's the rib. Painful memories of being out on the sea and that. It was a bit bumpy. There you go. Airborne. Scary experience. Right. Running across muddy fields and having hordes of hunters trying to hit me with things is one thing, but being out on that's a force 9 gale in the North Sea, and we didn't have life jackets. Interesting moment. So anyway, we handed over Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd were everywhere. They were ahead of them. They knew exactly everywhere they were going to go because they told us and we told Sea Shepherd. They got very angry. They threatened to get a crew down to deal with Sea Shepherd. And the following Monday, 3 of them, one of them armed with a rifle, went up and threatened a lone Sea Shepherd's photographer on the harbour wall, not knowing that there was another Sea Shepherd photographer with a video camera about 100 metres away filming the entire thing. Police were called. One of them, all 3 of them were arrested. One of them was convicted of threatening behaviour with a firearm involved. The following morning, 13 hunt sabs bowled into town, and the next time Sea Shepherd bumped into the shooters, there were some hunt sabs there to sort of give them a little bit of backup, and strange enough, the shooters didn't want to threaten anybody when they were heavily outnumbered. Amazingly, by the end of that day, they'd promised they were going to completely stop shooting seals in that part of the coast, and by the end of the week, they'd actually taken all their fishing nets out of the water and cleared about 100 kilometres of coastline completely of that type of salmon fishing. So we thought that was a nice little result. Right. All that just came down to the initial research. Before we went up there, I spent about a month on computer-based research, getting in contact with people in those villages, just getting every little bit of information. So when we went in there, we had a good idea what we were going to be facing. And bear in mind, that kind of hunting had not been sabotaged for 40 years. There was no experience to draw on. So we just had to build that knowledge. And when we got there, I think it was the ability to, again, just to to switch our plans very quickly from physically getting in the way to carrying on information gathering was crucial. And then from there on, just the bravery of some of the people that actually stood in the way whilst being threatened by a guy armed with a gun and just held their ground, and the coolness and the nerve of the person with the video camera just stand back and video it, all of that was absolutely essential in defeating those people. And it's a real moral. If you're trying to set up a hunt sab group, hunt sabotage in places where it hasn't traditionally been done, that's the way to do it if you ask me. The research is absolutely key. Now then, not content with going as far afield as Scotland, which is a fairly long drive for me, just clicking through the screens at the moment there, that's a beautiful sea lion. And this is obviously like kind of the origin of the Hunt Sab Global Network. The little boat you're seeing there, these are guys firing explosive charges at sea lions. Right? What happens is the sea lions come up the Columbia River from a place called Astoria. They try to trap them at Astoria. They brand them, right? So they put a hot metal brand onto the sea lion, it's got a number. The day before I actually got out to the United States, activists at Astoria had seen 2 sea lions actually catch fire. The brands were too hot and they just caught fire. They just burnt to death. Yeah, because they went up in flames. Obviously, sea lions are a very fatty animal, and the fat caught fire and they just incinerated. If they get up as far as the Bonneville Dam, this is where the shooting takes place. What they actually do out there, the sea lions are accused of eating salmon. What else are they going to eat? Right. They reckon the sea lions take about 3% of the total on the salmon run. The dam itself kills 40%. But of course we're going to scapegoat the wildlife rather than admit the dam's actually causing the problem. So what they do, the sea lions need to actually spend about 40% of their time out of the water. So what they do, every time the sea lions try to get out of the water, the little white boat, they fire an explosive charge over their heads, scare them, they get back in the water. The only place they can actually go that's out of the water where they're not going to get hazed is into floating traps. And up on the dam, this is actually a US military base, the dam, it's owned by the US Corps of Engineers. You actually have to go through an army checkpoint to get into the area. It's public access till 5 o'clock in the evening, but at 5 o'clock everybody has to leave. And it is patrolled by armed soldiers the whole time. Up on the dam there's a spotter, someone, an army personnel with binoculars. What they're looking for is any sea lion that's eating fish. And if they see, because they're supposed to be able to read the brand numbers, any sea lion that's seen eating 3 fish, that's it, that's going to get shot. Slight problem with this, the brand is on the sea lion's arse. When sea lions are eating fish, it's their upper, their front, the head, the front limbs that are out of the water. There is no way that you could see the brand of the sea lion that's eating the fish because the brand's going to be underwater. They can't possibly identify which sea lions are eating fish, it's a nonsense. What we think happens is that at 5 o'clock, when everybody has to leave the area, we know that the traps are controlled electronically, the doors shut down, the sea lions are then transferred out of that through a crush tube into a barge that takes them around to another barge where they're shot. We know that the bodies are sold to a local university for research purposes. We don't know how many they're actually killing, but it's substantial. So obviously my job out there, I was only out there 3 days, very limited what I could do. I was talking to the activists again. It's not illegal to fly post in the United States, so you can stick a poster anywhere you like. What I told them to do, I thought people in the local town would be appalled if they knew what was going on. Rather than 3-4 people up there protesting, I thought they'd get thousands. Put a poster on every lamppost, put a picture of a sea lion, put come and defend our sea lions, get a phone number, get a Facebook page, anything. Get people active, get people up there. Unfortunately, it seems that in America, people are really paranoid about the authorities. People are so scared. There's been a series of what's called grand jury subpoenas where they've pulled in people that are part of the ALF and ELF, and people are just running scared out there. You've got to take a chance. You've got to actually stick your head above the parapet. You're not going to stop the hunters unless you take some gambles. I'd love to go back out. I'd walk around and put those posters up on the lampposts. What are you going to do? Really? It's not even illegal. As it happened, I got arrested last year for fly posting in the Somerset Coal Zone, which is strange because I'd actually been set surveying that day. But they actually jumped us on the motorway with 2 police cars. They pinned us in and pulled us off the motorway for allegedly fly posting. But the police officer that arrested me said, I'm sure it's a crime of some sort. I said, which law actually have I broken? Oh, I'm sure it's illegal somewhere down the line. Well, you tell me what law I've actually broken. And they just let me go in the end. Well, I hadn't actually even been doing it, but there's neither here nor there. It's just mad. Take a chance. You've got to take some gambles. You're never going to get anywhere. Anyway, so after a few days up on the Bonneville Dam, I really wanted a picture of those sea lions in the traps. You couldn't get it from anywhere you were allowed to go. It's a military base. It's restricted areas. There's big yellow lines painted on the ground with "Do not cross this line." I've got to get that picture. So I sneaked in the bushes. I got my photos. I came out. There were 2 soldiers with guns waiting for me. "What were you doing in there, sir?" "That's a restricted area." I said, "I just went into the bushes to go for a piece. So, I was busting. I needed to go to the loo." He said, "There's a restroom right over there." I was like, "I'll remember that next time." They let me go. I don't want to go to prison in America. Right. Here's an unusual form of hunting. Oh, sorry. Badger cull zone. Let me just talk you through some of these slides. Right. This is set surveying last year down in Somerset. That, unfortunately, is a dead baby badger. This is before the cull started. The previous slide with the big metal pipe going down there, they're illegally gassing badgers. But again, trying to get the evidence of who's responsible for that, really, really hard. You might know the badger cull has just started again in the UK. Last year was just a fantastic success for Hunt Sabs, and the amazing thing about the badger cull is it drew into the movement thousands and thousands of people who would never have dreamed of becoming Hunt Saboteurs, but they were so appalled that the government was going to try to wipe out badgers. They needed an organisation, a focus, someone who was actually going to help them get in those areas and stop that cull. And of course the HSA, with 50 years of experience behind us, we were the people that were capable of coordinating what was going on in there. So it's actually been an incredible boost to the Hunt Saboteurs Association in Britain. I think we've actually doubled our membership in 12 months and doubled the number of active SABs as well, because lots of people that came into it to sabotage the badger cull, once the badger cull was over, just carried on coming out and sabotaging fox hunts and mink hunts and the other things that are going on. So I think the government's really shot itself in the foot with that one. They were out to kill 6,000 badgers. I think they killed less than 2,000. And the reason they killed so few was down to Hunt Sabs and ordinary people coming in and working with us. So another great success story there. And they've just started up the cull again for this year, and we're sitting there waiting for them. There are thousands of people out in the Gloucestershire and Somerset countryside. I think they're aiming to kill 2,000 this year. Let's make sure they don't get any. Right, this is actually in the Somerset cull zone. This is actually closing in on a big set of pheasant pens. And here's one of the poor little pheasants with a ring through its nose to stop it pecking the other poor little birds in the cage with it. That's what they look like. How could anybody shoot that? Something very wrong with these people. Lots of hen pheasants with those horrible rings. Right, this is the South Down and Erridge foxhounds. This hunt is quite incredible, the corruption here. The guy who is the huntsman, the top guy on this hunt, here you go, oh sorry, it's different. The guy on the top hunt on the South Down and Erridge was a police officer for 30 years. His wife owns a catering company. Guess who her biggest customer is? The Sussex Police. And it's a notoriously violent hunt. They know they can get away with it. They do get away with it. The photograph you saw there, the one that said, South Down Erridge, that was our return visit a year after they absolutely battered us. They put 3 of us in the hospital that day. We went back down with much larger numbers, not to cause trouble, but to disrupt their hunting for the day. And we did. From the high ground above where they were starting to hunt, using the hunting horns and a little device called a gizmo, which plays a tape of hounds in cry. When hounds pick up the sound of a fox, they make a distinctive yelping noise, really, really loud, lots of very excited barking. Now and other hounds will hear that noise. They know that a hound has found something to chase and they'll join in. We simply have a tape recording of that noise. You play that, the hounds think other hounds have found something to chase and they come towards it. So from about 1 kilometre away on the high ground, we actually pulled the entire pack of the South Down and Erridge up the side of this steep hill with the huntsman sitting at the bottom going, "Where have all my hounds gone?" And we held them all morning. We literally destroyed an entire morning's hunting just by that use of the gizmo and the hunting horn. They're very strange people. They don't look quite right. Right, this is the closest hunt to where I live. This is the Old Surrey and Burstow, again extremely violent. This guy on the screen now is called Mark Bycroft, he's the huntsman. And he was famously photographed shaking the hand of the leader of the nationalist UKIP party in Britain. It was all over the front page of the newspapers, and 3 days later he assaulted a hunt saboteur and was caught on camera doing so and had to accept a police caution, which is a kind of conviction for doing so. It's a great embarrassment for the nationalists. Wonderful. Right, I'm being flagged. I've got 5 minutes left. Do you want me to stop talking and start taking questions? Want me to carry on rabbiting? Right, go on. I'll shut up. Let's have some questions from the floor if anybody's got any. Tino.
Yeah, can you please update on the condition of Ned, please?
Okay, for those of you who haven't heard of Ned's a hunt saboteur who was out on a hunt on the Dorset-Somerset border. Quite a small group of hunt saboteurs that day, only 5 of them out, and they went to a hunt that is notoriously violent and hasn't been sabotaged for quite a long time. 2 of the hunt saboteurs were stood next to the group's Land Rover in a gate, and the huntsman rode along the lane, turned his horse and simply galloped through the 2 saboteurs that were standing there. Unfortunately, Ned was hit very, very hard indeed. The horse hit her at about 40 kilometres an hour. It trampled her into the ground. She was initially thought to have serious spinal injuries, and an air ambulance was called in, a helicopter was called in. They managed to stabilise her. It turned out she got 7 broken ribs and a punctured lung. She's very poorly indeed. She is improving. She's in hospital, but improving. Obviously, we'll wish her well.
Yeah, we've got the cars, get well cars. They will be on the stall for the Alfie up. So we like you guys, when we finish here, you go to his stall and you sign the card. We wish you well done. Thank you.
That'd be much appreciated. She really is appreciating the messages of support. A lot of people have emailed into the Hunt Saboteurs Association to ask how she's doing. As all incoming emails, the Hunt Sabs come to me. What I've been doing, anybody that emails in, and again, if you want to pick up my email address off the stall afterwards, if you want to email rather, or as well as signing the card, I can make sure that all those emails are passed on to her, and I know she really appreciates getting all the emails she's getting.
Is the hunter going to be charged for this?
That is very difficult to say. That he was arrested by the police. He was interviewed. He claimed it was an accident. There is video footage, which of course we cannot release at the moment because in case it does go to court, we can't put that in the public domain yet. But I've seen it, and he just rides through her at 40 kilometres an hour. Now, I don't know how much you're around horses. Horses will do anything to avoid coming in contact with a person. They hate it. So he had to have really pushed that horse to hit her like that. I'm told that he initially told the police it was an accident. They released him. But I'm told that he went back into the police station 4 days later and changed his statement. But we don't know exactly what he said when he went back. I'll be honest, I don't hold out a lot of hope of a prosecution. Have I got it on here? I don't think I've got it. If you go on YouTube and you put in Scottish seal colours, your initial search, you'll get the video of our recent West Coast campaign, but on the linked videos that go with it, about third one down, you'll see a photograph that starts with a green Land Rover car. You watch that video. Right, this shows a hunter, which unfortunately for me, it's me driving, but you actually see him run up, smash me around the back of the head with a lump of wood, and then I'm driving off. So this is caught on camera. Yeah, you can see him assault me, and he was acquitted. Him and 2 of his mates then went and battered the driver of the other Saab Land Rover with a rock. So they beat him with a rock. We knew who these people were. On the day it happened, I named them to the police. I actually knew the individuals involved. 2 of them arrested. One of them gave a 20-page statement to the police saying, yes, it was the other man. He named the other 2 men involved. Oh, yeah, it was this one, it was this one. I wasn't there, I was on the other side of the road. I saw it, but I didn't do it. They were both acquitted. The court threw it out. Is the guy that hit Nid liable to get prosecuted? I don't think so. I've been assaulted 4 times, seriously assaulted, hospitalised 4 times. On every occasion, I knew the man that assaulted me. On not one single occasion did any of them get prosecuted. The corruption it sickens me. So no, I don't think he'll get done for it. No. Yeah.
If I'm hello. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, you said you just sabotage the illegal hunts, not the legal ones. Is that true?
No, we sabotage all forms of hunting. Legal, illegal makes no difference to us.
Okay, so I'm mistaken. All right. If they are illegal, in case they are illegal, do you still risk your lives and go in front of the shotguns, or you just call the police first because it's illegal? They might stop it maybe in some time. I don't know, maybe.
The first job of the hunt saboteur is to save the lives of the hunted animals. I think most hunt saboteurs, I don't think you think very high about whether you're risking your life. You're just going to go and save that animal. I don't walk into a situation thinking, oh, I might die. I think I walk in thinking, I'm going to save that animal. Yeah. Afterwards, you might think, that was close. Yeah, so you come here, just sitting in the ambulance thinking, maybe that wasn't the best choice. no, you don't think about the risk to yourself. You probably couldn't do it if you were going to think. It's like I used to play rugby. I didn't go onto a rugby field thinking, oh, I might get hurt today, or I'm not going to touch the ball today. Someone might tackle me. I got on a rugby field, grabbed the ball and ran for the line. It's the same with hunt sabotage. I don't think about the risk to myself. I think about saving the life of that hunted animal.
Okay, thanks.
Get back up here now. Hello. The honest answer to that, no, I don't think we have much effect on their mentality. No, they are absolutely ingrained. They cannot see that what they are doing is wrong. But the sort of person who is going to derive pleasure from watching an animal be torn to pieces by a pack of 50 hounds, that person is so psychotic, I haven't got the right letters after my name to be affecting their psyche. Yeah, you'd need some powerful drugs or some therapy or something. I can't do that bit. I'm out there to save the hunted animals. I can have an impact on the way other people are thinking. I can go and tell people about hunting. I can get that vast majority of people out there who never ever see a hunt, who don't really know that it's going on. Isn't that banned? I thought they didn't do that anymore. I thought that was banned 10 years ago. Yeah, it's still going on every Saturday. Watch this video. Now, those are the people I'm working with. The vast majority of the population that are unaware. It's an education thing.
And does this education that you're speaking of have effects shown during the years that you're doing it already? That there are less hunts, maybe less hunters coming up and saying, well, no, it's nothing for me, and I want to break the traditions because I've been educated and I don't think this is the right thing to do?
No, I don't think we're educating the hunters. I think this is something I've heard from France, is that although they say the hunting lobby there is very, very powerful, all of the hunters are old. You're not getting younger people coming into hunting. So you might not be turning the people who are already hunting, but you might be turning their kids or their grandkids. It's the same with the hunts at home. We're not stopping the hunters, but when the Hunting Act came to be law in England, it makes it a criminal offence to allow hunting on your land. So you're far better off in that sense targeting the landowners, educating them. They don't really care one way or the other whether the hunt's there. But if you say to them, you do realise if they get caught on your land hunting illegally, you're going to go to jail. That's far more potent. One of the hunts in particular has now been prosecuted twice for illegal hunting. It's the easiest one to sabotage because they've run out of land. Nobody wants them. They never go more than 5 kilometres from their kennels. We can find them every Saturday because they're just in that one tiny little place. Whereas some of the other hunts are spread over hundreds of kilometres. That one's just lost all its land because the landowners are frightened to get prosecuted. So that's where you target the changing attitudes. You're going to be far more effective. Yay! Oh dear, you're going to get me started now. Right, every year in the United Kingdom alone, 11,000 hunting hounds are killed. 11,000, right? And most of them are killed before they're a year old, right? One of the true hidden horrors of hunting. Every year, a hunting hound only has a working life of 5 years, so they start in the pack when they're about 2. By the time they're 7, they're considered too old and too slow to be hunting dogs, so they kill them. Right? A hunting hound to live till it's 13, so 6 years, just over half its age, it's shot. One of the real horrors here, they feed the bodies of the hounds they've shot back to the rest of the hounds. Gross, isn't it? Do you want it even worse? To get one last run in the stomachs of their chums, it's what they would have wanted. And that's a quote from one of the huntsmen. Yeah, sick, isn't it? Yeah, these people, you talk about educating these people. You can't educate people with that sort of mentality. They are ill. Now, in order to replace all those hounds that are killed, there are 300 fox packs in the UK, and they each have a pack of about 50 hounds. So each hunt is killing 5 to 10 elderly half-age hounds every year. They've got to replace those. Each hunt has about 6 breeding bitches. Each bitch will have 6 puppies, 36 pups in each of 300 hunts. I'm sure you can do the maths quicker than I can, probably. Most of those aren't going to be needed. Each hunt only needs 5 puppies to replace the ones that they just killed. They've got an overspill of 31. Before they're a year old, most of those 31 are dead. Do you know why they die? Because their markings are wrong. They want their hunting hounds to have a particular look, mostly white, bit of tan, bit of black. If it's a bit too white, they kill it. Now, if it's less than a year old, it doesn't even get the bullet in the back of the head. I'm glad you're sitting down. They kill them by smashing their brains out on the concrete floor of the kennels. Another quote, 10 pence for a bullet is too much. Right, and this is a reality. This is what they do. The ones that come through that stage are placed out with puppy walkers, people whose job it is to just look after those dogs for the first 2 years. They're looking for dogs that are very obedient, very compliant, but also very aggressive because they want them to go kill things. Again, any dog that isn't making the grade, if it's not doing what it's told, if it's not showing aggression, that dog is going to die before it's 2. And the ones that come through that stage, they then have to train those up to kill foxes. It's not something they do naturally. What they do is they take the young hound, they put it with an older hound in the pack. It's called coupling. And they expect the older hound to teach the younger hound how to do it. Because you've got to have something to practice on. And this is another one of the hidden horrors of hunting. From the middle of August until the end of October is what they now like to call autumn hunting, but we've always called cub hunting, because what they're teaching the killing on is fox cubs. Fox cubs are born in April. By August, they're 4 months old. They're very young. They're inexperienced. They don't know how to get away from the hounds. And this is how you train a hound to be a killing machine. You get it to kill a fox cub. Unlike the rest of the season where they want to see the chase, during cub hunting they want what's called a chop, which is a kill almost immediately. The hounds are straight onto the fox cubs. So they put them in with the wind blowing into their faces rather than behind them, so the smell of the hounds isn't carried to the foxes, and they kill them in the woodlands. Now, of course, that's much harder to sabotage because you don't get that moment where you can intervene. It's really hard. You hear those hounds in cry in the woodlands. You've got to somehow get them out before they get onto those foxes, and you've only got seconds in which to do it. It's really tough. On the upside, unlike the main part of the season where the huntsman can claim that he had laid a false trail and the hounds had just got off it and chased a fox, in cubbing, if they're doing that, they are banged to rights. They cannot claim to be laying a false trail through the woodlands. You just can't do it. So if you can catch them on camera at that time of year, you will get prosecutions. And a couple of the successful prosecutions we've had have been from that cubbing season, but it is really bad. And also, they tend to go out at first light, so they'll be hunting at 6 o'clock in the morning out in the countryside areas. So hunt subs this time of year are literally out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to get out into the countryside in time to actually stop that sort of hunting.
What I just don't understand is that the UK is like supposed to be a country where they care about animal rights. So I imagine that you are exposing this, what they are doing with the dogs. So I just don't understand how come the public opinion, I mean, there are animal laws, animal rights laws, welfare laws that would not allow to kill puppies, right? I
somehow, incredibly, the hunts seem to have some kind of exemption from most of what would go on. If I were to go home right now and take a 3-week-old puppy and smash its brains out on my kitchen floor, I'm sure someone would prosecute me. But the hunts seem to be allowed to do this. It's traditional. They're working dogs. They're not pet dogs. There's a difference, apparently. You know, we're trying to use some of the laws that are around. For example, in England, if your dog poos on the floor, you must pick it up by law. And we're actually photographing, when the hunts are leading their dogs along public streets and the dogs are pooing everywhere, we photograph that. And councils will actually prosecute because they're not exempt. It's just they've been getting away with it for years. You've got to remember the police, by and large, are on their side. Yeah. The RSPCA, they tried some prosecutions. They've actually said they're not going to do it anymore because it costs them so much money. And the people that give money to the RSPCA didn't want to see the RSPCA spending money on attacking hunting. They wanted it for cat and dog rescue. That's what they really gave their money for. So spending money on prosecuting hunters, people were upset. The chief executive actually had to resign over spending money on trying to stop hunting. Yes, we're supposed to be a nation of animal lovers. In the reality of it, not enough.
And the public opinion?
80% opposed to hunting. Very, very steady figures. Almost everybody is against it. But and increasingly, again, I mean, in days gone by, you used to have a lot more hunt sabs and you used to have a lot more supporters. And then after the Hunting Act, it all kind of shrunk away. Everyone thought the issue was over and it had gone away. And then with the badger cull last year, suddenly we're back with a vengeance. There's a lot of us and we've got a lot more support. We'll get there. Yes?
Hey, thanks for your talk. Great.
You're welcome.
There's a picture that shows maybe a drone or something, a drone camera.
Oh yes, we love our drone. Right. Luckily for me, this is actually owned by one of the people in my group, and it's exactly what you say. It's a drone. It's a quadcopter, so it can hover. It's got a GoPro camera attached to it. The hunts absolutely hate it because they know that means we've got eyes in the sky. We can watch them, even if we're not physically in contact with them. We can watch them, and they are quite scared of it. Because in the normal run of things, if hunt saboteurs are present, the hunts won't openly hunt because they know we're videoing them. But so what they'll do is they'll try to spend all day trying to get away from us. And obviously on horseback, they're much quicker. You know, they can be quite effective at that. With the drone up in the air, that makes the task of them getting away so much harder. Right? And the real beauty of it is because if we lose contact with the hunt, if we've got a sight of it on the drone operator can be on the radio telling the foot sabs exactly where to go to catch up with them. It's a brilliant tool. Yeah, and I'm sure we're just trying to buy a second one that's like better than the one we've got at the moment that will actually send a GPS location back to the operator so that you can actually get on the radio and give a straight GPS to the sabs in the field. We get that. The technology will get better and better and better. Yeah. It's going to happen at some point. They were throwing rocks at it the last time it was in operation. The man was actually throwing rocks in the sky at it. But it's caught on camera because the drone is filming him throwing the rocks, and he wasn't a very good shot. So, yeah. I'm not. I don't think the police did anything about it. But yeah, they're very annoyed about it. They are very annoyed about it.
Did you encounter any violent attacks towards you?
I've been hospitalised 4 times. Serious injuries.
And what kind of attack?
The first time it was a deliberate ambush. They got a very large group of men, all armed with sticks and spades, crowbar, and they knew we were coming. And as we got out of the vehicles, they just threw missiles at us. In those days, I was always the first one out of the SAB van and always the last one to get back into it on any action we were on. So as I got out of the van, this huge bit of rock hit me on the top of the head. I needed 6 stitches in the head wound. It cracked my skull. It smashed the balance centre of my brain. It took them 6 months to teach me how to walk again. I was out sabbing a fortnight later. I was all over the place. I kept falling over, but I was there. It made me very angry. It made me very determined. Trying to think what the next one, they attacked the vehicles with spades, and one of them put a sharpened spade in through the driver's side window and in through my elbow. That was a bit messy. Had to drive away afterwards. The one after that, they Again, it was an ambush. It was a very foggy day, and we could hear the hunting horn being blown up on the high ground, so we assumed the huntsman was up on the high ground. So we drove up this very little country track, parked in a car park. All the hunt saboteurs got out of the vehicle to follow the horn. As soon as they'd gone, 10 vehicles showed up, full of men all armed up, and they just attacked the vehicle. And I was the driver again that day, so was repeatedly punched in the face with a knuckle duster. And then the man went back to his vehicle and got a great big knife about that long, and he was walking towards me saying, "I'm going to stab you, I'm going to stab you." And at that moment, luckily, I managed to start the vehicle and drive off before he actually could. And then the last one, a couple of years ago, we were following the hunt through the woods, and they were clearly hunting illegally. They hadn't laid a trail through the woodland, so we were sticking very close by the huntsman. We came out of the woods, and just at that moment, a fox broke cover and ran for its life, and all the hounds were running after it. So because we ran in, we managed to use the hunting horn and the whip, and we managed to pull the hounds off. And we'd also videoed, the huntsman was actively encouraging the hounds onto the fox, so we got really good video footage that we could have given to the police. Well, they wanted that video camera so badly, they sent about 30 men in, and they beat the hell out of us to get that camera. The first one that ran up and he punched me in the face, I thought, well, that wasn't a very good punch. So I used to be a rugby player, so I just took his feet out and put him on the floor and just pinned him down, just like, "Look, you're down, stop it, leave it now." And unfortunately what happened is his friend ran up and kicked me with his steel toe cap boots in the ribs, and then in the face, and in the face, and the face. And I was holding the first one down, I was thinking, this guy's not going to stop, he is actually going to kick me to death. And then suddenly it all just went black. And I thought, is that what death feels like? And it wasn't, it was the young female sab that was with me had actually thrown herself on top of me to stop him kicking me any further. So he kicked her in the ribs and the head, and then he ran away because he was a coward. But it got worse after that. We went to try to look for the guy who'd had the video camera. We couldn't find him. And we came out into a field, and we'd been told to get to a safe point to be picked up by a vehicle. So we had to get across this field. And there were all these men all pushing and shoving, and they brought a Land Rover car up. And then we got a radio call saying the other guy was still back in the woods, so we went back to try to get the other hunt saboteur out of the woods, and they tried to run us over 4 times with the Land Rover, which is quite scary because it's quite a big vehicle. If it hits you, it hurts. Eventually, the guy actually had me pinned into a hedge as he drove it into me, and had me pinned up against a hedge. Unfortunately, my female companion was a very sharp-thinking young lady, just went round the back and ripped the back door off, smashed the back door. So, of course, this made him stop and go, "What are you doing to my car?" And that gave us the moment to run away. But yeah, they're violent. You do kind of have to accept that if you're going to be a sab, it's not a safe occupation. There's no health and safety briefing. You take that risk when you go out there. But I've been doing it 33 years, 4 injuries. I get injured at work more often, to be honest. I'm a teacher in a special school, by the way. I work with very difficult kids. Yeah. Yes, Tino. Over the year, 2 hunt saboteurs have actually lost their lives. Mike Hill and Tom Warby, both of them were killed by hunt vehicles. Mike, very brave young man up in Cheshire, along with 2 other hunt saboteurs, he got onto the back of a hunt vehicle that was towing a trailer. The hunter knew he was there, and they drove off. Things making strange noises at me. Right, the hunter drove off very high speed down a country lane. As he turned a corner, Mike was thrown off the back of the vehicle he was on, and the trailer ran him over and killed him. Tom Warby, even more tragically, very young man, only on his first ever hunt sab, went out and he was against a wall, and the hunt vehicle just crushed him against the wall, just ground him into the wall. It's terrible, and again, on both occasions, the hunters were not prosecuted. On the hunt in my area, my very, very close friend Steve Christmas, in that time of year, the cubbing season, where they really, really don't want hunt sabs around, he was with just 3 other hunt saboteurs early one morning. The hunt with a great big 4-wheel drive vehicle, they ran him over, knocked him down, and then reversed back over him. How he survived, I've never been quite sure. They crushed his rib cage, they crushed his pelvis. He was a very big, strong man. Somehow he survived. Yeah, they had to amputate 1 metre of his bowel that became infected, and he's never worked since. Carried on sabbing for a bit. Very, very brave guy. What the hunts don't realise, what police don't realise, the violence will never put us off. The violence will never stop. It actually inspires you. I hate to say this, when you get hurt by the hunt, you just want to be back out there the next week even more. You know in your hearts they're evil. When they do something like that, it just brings it home. It just makes you more determined. I've never known anybody put off by hunt violence. It just fires you up when you're faced by that sort of stuff.
That was attempted murder. How could they get off on that? Do damage to the body show that they actually reversed over?
Oh yeah, the police came out. The police on the day were really good. They did all the correct forensics. They took plaster casts of the tyre prints, everything, and then it goes up through the levels of authority, and you just know it's always going to get dropped. Usually the police on the day are really nice, really helpful, but then their bosses just go, now sweep that under the carpet. Yeah, there's the drone, by the way, whoever mentioned the drone. Oh, lovely little drone. I love that bit of kit. Yeah.
I think at times you must feel the urge to get back at the hunters. What do you do with that?
Right, that's quite simple. We've got what Tino mentioned earlier about Nid being ridden down. Yeah, this was a horrific attack on a single female sab by a guy on a horse. Of course, in the anger at that moment, you think, I want to go down, I want to do something, I want to drag him off that horse. No, if you really want to get back at them, you go and sabotage their hunt. You ruin their day. You take the pack off of them. Yeah? You make sure they don't get anywhere near a fox all day long. That's a far more effective way than actually going and getting into a violent confrontation with them. I've been a sab 33 years. I put my hand on my heart. I have never seen a hunt saboteur start a fight.
I'll say like sabotaging their equipment or poisoning the horns. Stuff like that.
Hunt sabotage is non-violent direct action. Occasionally, I can think of some examples of hunt vehicles being damaged, but it's never been something that's been initiated by hunt saboteurs. There's a really famous case from 1997, the Hursley-Hambleton, a notoriously violent hunt. And it was the sort of hunt where if you'd gone down with a normal group of 10 saboteurs, you would have been killed. So we went down with 90 one day, and as we arrived, they attacked us. I know, I was in the lead vehicle. They just started throwing missiles the moment we arrived, and the minute we were out of the vehicles, their boys were coming in, big sticks. Well, a fight ensued. We didn't start that fight, but in the course of that fight, some of their vehicles got damaged, some of their people got hurt. You know, but it's not, we'd never dream of actually going and initiating that kind of action. It's not what we do. We're non-violent, and we're out there just to save the lives of the animals, not to hurt people.
Are you harassed by them? I mean, I'm sure that they know you and your team, but do you get harassed or life threatened?
I'm quite lucky because I live quite a long way into London, and I personally haven't experienced any hunt violence following me home, but I do know other people who have, especially people who live out in more rural areas. Yeah, I know people have had their windows smashed. We even had one of my group was attacked in the town where we live on her way home from sabotage one evening. She thinks it was just pure chance that some of the hunters just happened to be driving through and they saw her. And they did hurt her, yeah. Okay, I've got to say that was not hunt saboteurs on that occasion. That was a POWER, People for the Welfare of Animals monitor, and a very good friend of mine, John Curtin, who was with him. But that was not hunt saboteurs on that occasion. The huntsman who was killed these guys actually had a small a small helicopter, wasn't it? Yeah, like a miniature helicopter. And what they were doing again, it was Yeah, this again was a known, very violent hunt where you couldn't risk being on the ground because you would have been attacked. So they were using this small helicopter to film the illegal activity of the hunt. And it's a very small aircraft. It can only last in the air for 15, 20 minutes. They had to go to an airfield to put more fuel in. The hunters chased them to the airfield. and they were trying to attack the helicopter on the ground. Just as the rotor started up, one of the hunters ran into the rotor and it cut his head off. The power monitor and John were arrested for murder, and it went to court and they were acquitted, absolutely acquitted. Absolutely clear. That guy ran into the rotor. They did not do anything aggressive towards him at all. Any more questions? In that case, I'll be returning down to the merchandise store at the far end of the building downstairs. We have a wide range of Hunt Saboteur Global Network merchandise, which is new this year. It's never been around before this year. It's all ethically traded. It's all organic, and it comes in a range of colours. We've departed from the traditional Hunt Sab black, although I'm still wearing black. We also have the wonderful book written by Rafa, who is the chef on the Sea Shepherd boat, Bob Barker. She's compiled a book of recipes and activist tales. We did a joint action with Sea Shepherd in April up in Scotland. I met Rafa at the Vegan Festival in Rome earlier this year, and then we did a joint presentation up in Malmo earlier in the year. She's given us 50 copies of her book. It's really brilliant. The vegan food recipes in there are absolutely wonderful. So come down, buy the book, and then try out the recipes. I look forward to seeing some of you down there later.